Carl Zha, thank you very much for joining us once again. It looks like the Chinese foreign minister is on a series of visits, that too on the South Asian side, 2 days in India, and then the trilateral dialogue between China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan in Kabul, and now he's in Pakistan, Islamabad. Let's unbox all these meetings. What do you think about them? First of all, the Indian meeting. It sounds like it was a pretty productive meeting.
Yes. Right now, China sees a strategic opportunity when United States is really putting the screw on India over supposedly over purchasing of Russian oil. And this visit is also paving way for future visit of Prime Minister Modi coming to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting end of this month. And India right now it has been trying to straddle between two camps. It has its one foot in the Quad with United States as part of the U.S. Anti-China bandwagon. On the other hand, India is a member of BRICS, a founding member, in fact, but United States no longer allow this kind of strategic autonomy for India because from US perspective, US do not have partners. United States do not have allies. United States only have vassals. And Donald Trump just make it even more clear. He demands everyone to bend the knee. And India right now is trying to defend its own sovereignty, the sovereignty of being able to purchase Russian oil and maintain its traditional friendly relationship with Russia, because India and Russia relationship goes way back to the time of Soviet Union, and India actually depends on Russia for a lot of its weapon platform and for the as well as energy need. What Trump wants is he wants India to cut off its Russia ties and switch to buy weapons and oil gas from United States, right? And that's not the deal India is willing to accept. And particularly one appeal of Modi to his constituency in India is he's like positioning himself as a tough guy who is always defending India's interests, right? And he cannot be seen as backing down in front of this unreasonable bullying by Trump. And another Trump demand is India open up its market, particularly its domestic agricultural market, to allow flooding of U.S. State subsidized U.S. farm product into India. India has more than 60% of the population employed in the agricultural sector. That's not something they can afford to do. So in either front, India cannot be seen as to bend to the U.S. demand. So this is why India also have a strong incentive to move closer, at least try to repair its relationship with China. This is why Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi is visiting India right now. For the Indian part, they have signaled that they're willing to relax on the restriction on the Chinese investment. So prior to 2021, there was actually a lot of Chinese investment into India, particularly in its tech sector, but that was cut off as a result of the border conflict. And there was a if you look at the foreign direct investment number from China to India, it's almost there's a cliff. It fall off a cliff after 2021, and one most famous case was BYD said they were ready to open a joint venture in India to manufacturing electric cars. That was canned because of the pressure and the regulatory restriction put up by the Indian government. And so now India is now changing their tune. They say, okay, we welcome Chinese investment. We're going to expedite uh, approval process. This also is because uh, India now they caught the straight bullets when China started placing export control on rare earth minerals. That was mainly aimed toward United States. Uh, this is also why Donald Trump has not gone after China for China's purchase of Russian oil, because China still holds the cards on the rare earth front. But the rare earth export control is a global, it's a global implementation, not just for United States. Any export of rare earth out of China right now, you need to file application to the Chinese Foreign Commerce Ministry. And so a lot of the Indian automotive industry captains are complaining to the Indian government because they're not getting the rare earth heat resistant magnet they need that to be used in the inside the car motors. This is a very important component for cars and for other industrial applications. So they are, India is feeling the hurt right now under the Chinese export control on the rare earth. So that's another thing India is hoping to get lifted. You know, there's a reason also China placed the rare earth restriction export to India is because back in 2010, when China first placed rare earth export restrictions on Japan over China-Japan territorial dispute in East China Sea, Japan has turned to India for its rare earth supply. So what India has done was acting as a transshipment center. So India would import rare earth from China and then turn around and export to Japan. So this is why China was trying to prevent India plays the same role by selling rare earth to United States. Um, so there's a lot of negotiation right now. Is one on the economic front, but also try to build more trust over the border issues. One thing they could do is there's a annual religious pilgrimage from India side to go to Mount Kailash in Tibet. I think that China has been relaxing uh, travel restriction for those pilgrims to attend. So there's a potential for a soft reproach bond between the two countries. This is why Wang Yi is basically doing the groundwork right now for the eventual meet between Modi and Xi Jinping in China.
So there are a few things that have been agreed upon. That is direct flights from China, from India to China, visa simplifications, um, and border trade at 3 points from India to China and China to India. So when we talk about the borders, there have been a lot of skirmishes at the borders. What were like the biggest three, if you can remember, in history? One was I could remember like around 7 years ago, 6 years ago, that was a hand-to-hand battle happened somewhere in the north region.
Well, the most serious clash that happened recently was a 2020 Galwan River Valley clash.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
the two sides met in the deep mountain valleys, and India claimed they lost over 20 people who through various reports they claim they fell into the water and they died from exposure, and then the Chinese has also finally released the death figures. They lost, I think, about 5 people. um but the border clash, uh you know so the two sides have reached agreement back in the early 1990s that they will not be using firearms on the border clash in order to prevent further escalation. So the 2020 border clash actually happened when both sides were fighting with rocks and sticks and melee weapons. But the fatality happened because it was at such a high altitude, over frozen river, and when people fell into the river, and that's when, like, even when they get fish out, people die from their injuries and from exposure, and mostly die from exposure. And so this is that's a kind of clash they're hoping to prevent in the future. I mean, one of the problems with the border clash is really it's because the border has not been, even the line of actual control has not been clearly delineated. There's a border dispute. There's a large tracts of land India claims China control, and China claims India control. But even along the line of so-called actual control, that even that line is not clearly demarcated. So both sides will patrol up to the line where they perceive to be the line of actual control. And then when the two patrol teams cross path, that's when the clash happens. So I think one of the things they have to do better is to work out a mechanism for de-escalation in such cases. It will take time to rebuild the trust over the border issue. But I think right now two sides are willing to put that aside and to focus on other aspects of their bilateral relationship, because India and China are two big countries that have a lot of other areas of interest they could work on, particularly, as members of BRICS nation. Now, as I mentioned, India has tried to straddle this like two camps. They thought they could derive maximum benefit to India by aligning with United States against China, but also be in the BRICS, right? Because that, but it's now they're being forced to choose by United States. And one thing that one thing to note is, people have complained about role of India inside BRICS. Many people say India is the weakest link in the BRICS. This is because India have a different vision for BRICS than other member nations like China or Russia. Because China or Russia, they see BRICS as alternative to the US dominated international organizations. Whereas India, while it sees BRICS as alternative, but it doesn't want BRICS to be seen as anti-US or anti-Western, because India wants to, improve ties with US, right? It was hoping to profit from the so-called decoupling from China, the so-called China plus one strategy, when U.S. government, particularly under Biden administration, have been encouraging multinationals to move their supply chain out of China. India was hoping to cash in by getting some of this manufacturing get redirected into India. For example, iPhone, right? Apple, they had increased outsourcing from China to India in order to make iPhones for United States. But Donald Trump just came out and said, that's not what I want. I don't want you to make cell phone in India. I want you to make cell phone in the United States. And so now India is being put under a bind. They were hoping by staking their ground in BRICS, by saying, BRICS should not be anti-West, anti-US, and particularly opposing the BRICS currency, right? India say they will still prefer to deal in dollars, because that they felt that that's the best suited to India's need. Now Donald Trump is slapping Indian leadership on the face. Like, for all these effort India tried to get on the good side of the United States, it's been paid back with public humiliation. And so India now has no choice but to move closer to its BRICS fellow BRICS members.
So, Mr. Wang Yi, after his India's trip, landed in Afghanistan in a very important trilateral meeting between Afghanistan, Pakistan, and China. How is this important?
Right. Well, first of all, it's for China have traditionally maintained friendly ties with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Afghanistan, even before the Taliban take over, actually, even before the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, China had maintained a good relationship, a working relationship with the Taliban before 9/11, and then China, after the U.S. invasion and occupation, China continued to maintain a friendly working relationship with the Afghan puppet government that was installed by the U.S. And so it doesn't matter what government that sits in Kabul, China always try to maintain a friendly relationship, because from China's perspective, these are our neighbors. We want to have friendly relationship with our neighbors, regardless who sits at the head of their government, right? And so Afghanistan is a concrete example of China's non-interference foreign policy. Like, China's perspectives, like as long as you are the head of the government, let's do business. And and Pakistan and China has a special relationship, right? The Iron Brother relationship, and Wang Yi is traveling to Pakistan and Afghanistan to reinforce those ties. And and also for practical reasons, he's already in South Asia, right? And he just makes the same tour. And also you don't want to be seen as favoring one side over other. China is not trying to say, okay, now we're leaning toward India, so we're neglecting Pakistan. At the same time, China is showing that they will treat their relationship with Pakistan and Afghanistan equally as important.
So now, just last night, he landed in Pakistan, and there was a lot of it was a great welcome. Especially, this was happening after what happened between India and Pakistan. The deputy prime minister Ishaq Dar was there to meet him, greet him at the airport. He's also the foreign minister as well, and a lot of photos being taken with a lot of warming handshakes as well, a lot of smiles going on. So what can happen after all you see these trips going on? We had Dr. David on the show. He said that the US wouldn't be happy because of China growing with Pakistan, because this would at the end spill into Afghanistan, and they don't want China to be going in Afghanistan. So what implications would these pictures have on the world?
Well, I mean, United States recently there's a warming of ties between U.S. and Pakistan after the Indian-Pakistan conflict. I mean, one motivation for U.S. is obviously try to possibly peel Pakistan away from China. I don't think that's going to happen. And Wang Yi's trip is just reassuring that it's business as usual, and U.S. This is where Donald Trump's ego play a role, right? Because one of the reasons he's so mad with India is because when Donald Trump trying to claim credit for mediating the ceasefire between Pakistan and India, Pakistan side immediately welcomed it, and they
Said
they
thank
they
you.
they not in fact they say thank you, and they nominated him for Nobel Peace Prize. Trump really liked that. Now, whereas India came out emphatically deny any U.S. role in mediating the ceasefire. That is a personal affront to Trump, right? I mean, Trump he has a big ego. He loves flattery. What Pakistan did was playing to his vanity, his ego. Pakistan was playing him like fiddle. Whereas when India said no, now he has nothing to do with that. Trump really, really hated that. I mean, Trump really hated that. I mean, this is one reason why he's really going hard on India right now. But I think Pakistan understand how that game is played. Pakistan have been kind of triangulating between China and U.S. for decades now. They know how that game is being played. And so again, so Wang Yi's trip to Pakistan is just to reassure everyone, like, this is business as usual. Our ties is still strong, and I'm sure after the recent performance of the Chinese weapon system, there'll be more weapon purchases going on forward. So yeah, so I mean, like, the U.S. If there was a U.S. attempt to try to peel Pakistan away from China, um, that will that will not work. Just like how U.S. is trying to peel Russia away from China, through the Alaska summit. One of the goal is to peel Russia away from China. Again, that I don't think that will be successful. Putin is a very, very intelligent, smart man.